All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Soul Aligned Living with me, Dr. Toya Davis. I am a spiritual teacher, ancestral lineage healer, and Akashic Records master. And today we are diving into something that I feel like lately I've been talking about ancestors a lot, probably partly because of the books that I came out with, right? But I also think that energetically there are times when certain energies are just a little more heavy or a little more prevalent, and so the energy of ancestors and talking about ancestor and ancestor veneration and elevation and healing and all of that stuff has really been kind of top of mind for me lately. So today we are talking about ancestral veneration, and more specifically, I'm going to give you 5 truths about ancestral veneration that might be slightly different than kind of more popular ideas, right? Or that you'll hear kind of a little more frequently out into society. I think that a part of my work and a part of my calling with doing this ancestral work is to kind of shift the narrative, right, on how we approach our relationship with our ancestors, how we understand who and how they are and how they show up in our life and how we can work with them. All right. So before we dive in, I always forget to do this at the end. So I'm going to bring it at the top. If you can go ahead and hit the like, subscribe, or share button, I would absolutely appreciate it. Tell a friend. And then when you subscribe, hit the little icon so that you know when I have new videos coming out. All right. So I want to just start off by saying I believe that intention is really, really important. Okay. Intention, energy follows intent. Once we set the intention, we believe our energy to kind of follow in that vein. Right? I say that all the time because I believe it to be true. And so our work with our ancestors are no different. I think that we need to be intentional about the outcome and the goals that we are setting to work with our ancestors. Now, if you've been around, you know that I delineate the different kind of ways that we can work with ancestors. So I believe that there's veneration, elevation, and healing. And those 3 things are different. They have very different intentions and they have very different outcomes. So today we're talking about veneration. Okay. So truth number 1, you do not need to know your ancestors to honor them. I know that we can probably surmise this on like a logical level, but doing this work and having the clients that I've had and just conversations, I also know that it's kind of a sore heart spot moment, or it can be a sore hot spot moment for people who do not know a part of their family, right? Sometimes I have people who've been adopted, who've had certain things happen, earlier in their life where they never got a chance to learn or know about their family, or people who might be estranged from one side of a family and not the other side. And so all of those things can create psychological barriers to someone dealing with and kind of locking into the ancestral process. And I'm saying that you absolutely do not need to know who your ancestors are. You don't need to know them by name. You don't need to have photos of them. You don't need to have a story or someone who can tell you a story about them to venerate them, right? Some of our most powerful relationships are those things that are felt. And why this is important is, again, those ancestors, it's energy. Right? It's energy. And we don't need to be able to call the energy by a name in order for that energy to be able to receive the intention that we are putting out into the world. All right. So truth number 1, you do not need to know your ancestors in order to honor them. All right. If you've been wanting to know more about your ancestors, or kind of wanting a clear name or path or directions, I'm gonna ask that you sit with the idea, or you take this invitation to trust that what you feel can be just as valid, right? Or not can be, that what you feel is just as valid as this learned information, right? And setting the intention to learn more and to understand and to tap in is a absolutely viable way of connecting. All right. Truth number 2. Your ancestors want your evolution, not your obedience. I know that one is a hard one, and I kind of harp on this one a lot, right? I use different ways to say it, but essentially it's always getting to the same thing. We are not creating and establishing a relationship with our ancestors, or this veneration idea with our ancestors, to simply replicate or duplicate what they've done, or to simply blindly carry out instructions for them, right? We honor them, right? Veneration and honor. We honor our ancestors by becoming more whole. What do I mean by that? I mean that we actually honor them when we heal, when we achieve something great, when we push a boundary, when we break a mold, when we crush through the ceiling, right? All of those ways are ways that we are honoring our ancestral lineage. And so I offer that you think about what ways can I push the lineage forward, right? The reframe is, I honor my ancestors when I push the lineage forward. And then in that framework, what can you do? Okay. Understand that there's the t-shirt or the quote or something that was going around that said, like, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams, right? And the reality is that half of the stuff that we're doing and we have the opportunity to do here in this day and age could not have even, some of our ancestors couldn't have even fathomed these things, right? Because technology, all of the stuff. Now, I won't go into the whole how far back our ancestors go, and technology was probably a lot more advanced then than it is now. I digress. I won't digress and go down that rabbit hole, but just know that kind of our more immediate ancestors, like a lot of this stuff that we have the capacity and the capability to do, was not something that they could have necessarily foreseen in its fullness, right? And so when you're saying, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams, understand that you get to be so expansive in what that means. You get to be so dynamic in charting new courses, in breaking habits and breaking patterns, that the wildest dream that they had can absolutely pale in comparison to the life that you are creating, that you're living. Okay, so truth number 2, your ancestors want your evolution, not your obedience. Okay, truth number 3, veneration is different from healing or elevation. And I talked a little bit about that at the top, but just a little bit more. So lighting a candle is powerful. Saying a prayer is beautiful, but that's remembrance, right? That's the veneration part. That is the honoring part. And that's different than bringing resolution. Okay. Bringing resolution is the aspect where we're healing and where we are elevating. And those are different. Ancestral or veneration is the act of honoring, right? So you can do that through song, through food, through rituals, through storytelling, saying names, right? Doing prayers, any of that stuff is honoring or veneration. Okay. I do an ancestral party for the community, and one of the things that we do at the ancestral party is everyone goes around and tells a story, right, about someone from their line. It can be a particular person, or it can be like a story about their ancestors in general. That is veneration. That's honoring. That's us taking the time to remember, to put their energy in space. There's a proverb that says, as long as someone remembers your name, you'll never die, right? So that's what we're doing. But ancestral healing and elevation involves transmuting energy, okay? Releasing burdens and helping stuck ancestors evolve. So just know that veneration is different from healing or elevation. Okay, all have a purpose. All are powerful. Yes. Okay. So our key distinction here for truth number 3 is veneration brings connection, healing brings movement. All right. Truth number 4, your life is the altar. I'm going to say that one again. Truth number 4, your life is the altar. Like, people can get so bogged down in the accoutrement, right? In the things, right? It's, I need the candle, I need the table, I need the this, I need the this. Well, they said I needed to do this, right? And it becomes this outward display or this outward exhibition, right? And what that does is, one, it can create barriers to the actual process, right? Because now we're stuck in our head, oh, I don't have this, so I can't do this. Oh, did I light the candle right? Is this the right color? I literally saw there was like this social, like this Facebook in this group, it was like arguing about the color of the candle. And it's like all of these things are barriers to connection, right? And the reality is you are the living altar. You are the altar in more ways than, again, I'm going to go into in this video. But big picture is your life is the reflection, right? Are you living a good life? Are you doing things that when someone from the past would look back and say, ah, yes, that's my offspring, right? Yes, my blood is running through her veins, his veins, their veins. Are you walking in integrity? Are you living the life? We just talked about the wildest dreams. Are you doing that? And that in and of itself is honoring your ancestors. But then past that, I always say in my work with ancestors, you are the physical representation, or you are the physical manifestation of all of those who have come before you, right? And so if that is the case, then as you tap into yourself, right? Prayer to yourself, taking care of yourself, honoring yourself in those ways, you have access to all of those ancestors and energies that have come before you. And it doesn't have to be an external thing, right? The way and the reason I teach that we set up external altars and shrines and all of that stuff is because a lot of times the mind needs, I mean, and this is true, the mind needs something to project on. Like we do better with a physical thing, right? It gives us a point of focus. It allows a part of the unconscious mind to understand, okay, these are the things that's happening, versus relying fully on, nope, internal, I am the vessel, right? I can make the shifts, I can do the things. That can be a little bit difficult for particularly someone new to understand. So I understand why we have altars, but I'm just offering that is not necessary, and don't allow that aspect of it to prevent you from doing the work, because your everyday life can be in service to veneration and honoring your ancestors. All right, last one, you get to define what this looks like. All right, truth number 5, you get to define what ancestral veneration looks like for you. You don't have to do it how your grandmother did it. You don't need a specific religion or lineage to start honoring where you come from. Your veneration practice should feel resonant. It should feel safe, and it should feel true for you, right? It can be prayer, it can be dance, it can be writing letters, cooking. Cooking is a wonderful time to connect and to honor our ancestors. Singing, right? I'm not Christian, but today I was listening to what's his name? James Cleveland. Don't feel no way tired, right? So I have like my set of songs that I'm like, oh, and for me, that is one, it is remembrance from childhood, right? But it is also very much connected to a part of my family that come from the church, right? So in those ways, I am honoring them. Same thing sometimes with cooking, right? I definitely don't eat a lot of the ways that my ancestors did, but I sometimes will cook and I'm thinking about them. Or my mother was an amazing cook, and a lot of things, like after she died, I stopped cooking, right? There are a lot of things that like just reminded me so much of her that it was difficult for me to cook those things, and particularly at certain holidays that were like staples. And then in the last probably few years, there have been things that I'm like, dang, I want that again, right? But because the muscle memory wasn't there, I couldn't remember how to do it. And so I would go into the kitchen and literally just be like, all right, Mom, we're about to make some boiled fish and grits. I need you to help me remember how to do this thing. And that has, again, been a way of honoring her and connecting and all of that stuff. So remember that you get to define what it looks like, right? And it's not performative. It's a relationship. And I find sometimes, again, we are doing all of the things because that's what we've been taught, that's what we've been told, and we fall into that trap, and then we're doing the things and they don't feel authentic. They don't feel right. They don't feel true. One of the things my godfather says is like, if you do something, you should be able to see the fruit of it, right? So if I'm doing something and I'm doing it consistently, and then I look back and I'm like, but wait, is that really adding value? Then it's like, go and change something, right? Why would you keep doing something that's not working, right? So it's okay to be open, to be reflective, to be led by spirit in this. Always, though, setting the intention that you are trying to build healthy, safe relationships and connections, right? Use a healthy, safe, grounded, those types of things, all right? Intention is important. And so just to round up, number 5, there is no one right way to love and honor your people. All right. So now that you've heard all 5 truths, I want you to ask yourself, what does ancestral veneration look like in your life right now? Right? What feels aligned? What feels easy to integrate into your day-to-day activities? What might it look like if you gave yourself full permission to honor and evolve? And by full permission, that means letting go of preconceived notions and ideas of, or things that you've been taught of what it needs to look like and what it needs to be. Okay. So if this speaks to you, I invite you to, sorry if you hear extra noise, I invite you to either one of my books here, which is all about creating and connecting with your ancestors in a way that is authentic. It is helping you to understand, one, to help connect and build relationships, to help dismantle programming and thinking, to help bring things to light. You don't need to know who your ancestors are, but if you go down this path of connecting with your ancestors, if working through ancestral trauma, if receiving ancestral support in a way that is supportive of your goals and your desires is something that you want to do, I invite you to go and purchase the books, Path to the Ancestors. One is a actual book, 33-day guided journal. One is a journal, 33-day guided journal for healing, connection, and personal growth. And the other is a book, 33 prayers, prompts, and rituals. 33 prayers, prompts, and rituals for healing and connection. All right. So, hope this has been good for you. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share, check the link in the description, and I will see you next time. Until then, stay aligned, liberated, and abundant. Peace.